Happy Halloween. You want something scary, but movies don't frighten you anymore, and big studios just churn out the same cookie-cutter shooters with loot boxes? Then welcome to the world of indie horror. Independent teams aren't bound by marketing reports and publisher rules. They're free to experiment, to find new ways to scare and to spark the imagination. Today, we've gathered stories that don't just rely on cheap jump scares. They mess with your mind, build crushing atmosphere, and make you think. Let's start with Tormented Souls 2. This is a true gift for those who grew up on Resident Evil and Silent Hill. The second part has grown far beyond indie and feels like a full-scale survival horror with gorgeous locations, cutscenes, and tons of new features. The combat system is more dynamic. Enemies are sharp and dangerous, now you have dodges and melee weapons, and boss battles are a separate trial of their own. There are 5 of them, and each requires a different approach. Special attention is given to atmosphere, a gloomy city and eerie locations that instantly bring back the PlayStation classics. Puzzles remain the heart of the game, complex, clever, and sometimes insanely inventive. If the first part showed a modest budget, now it's clear the developers went all in. The Mortuary Assistant. This is a very different kind of horror experience. There are no zombies or monsters here. The real nightmare is born from the daily routine of working in a morgue. You play as a young woman preparing bodies for embalming, but one of them turns out to be possessed by a demon. That's when the mind game begins. Among dozens of procedures, you'll need to identify the right body, learn the demon's name, and try to survive. What makes the game special is the randomization and replayability. Every playthrough throws you into new situations. Jump scares trigger randomly, events change, and there are multiple endings. The game frightens not so much with loud stingers, but with helplessness and suffocating atmosphere. It's a horror remembered for its uniqueness. Very few games make death feel this real. The Midnight Walk. This isn't a classic horror, it's more of a dark and twisted fairy tale. The protagonist, once burned alive, returns to a world almost drained of light and sets out with a strange companion to bring it back. The style is what really hooks you. Clay-like characters, grotesque environments that look ripped from children's nightmares and fantasies. Giant houses on legs, toothy monsters with twitching movements, towering wardrobes reaching the sky. Everything looks bizarre and mesmerizing. The Midnight Walk doesn't try to terrify you, it fascinates you. It's a journey through a magical yet grim world, where every tale feels like an old legend told by the campfire. The atmosphere is completed by a beautiful soundtrack that makes the world feel both cozy and unsettling. The Beast Inside. This is a horror built not on cheap scares but on story. And here it's told in a unique way, 2 timelines woven together. On one side, Adam, a CIA cryptographer who moves with his wife into a country house. On the other, Nicholas, who lived in the same house during the Civil War. Every discovery of the past unleashes new horrors in the present. The game is built on Unreal Engine 4 with photogrammetry, which makes the environment look incredibly realistic. Creaking floorboards, detailed interiors, dark forests. Gameplay mixes stealth with tense chases, puzzles, and even occasional gunfights. The story ties past and present into one fabric, slowly revealing terrifying secrets. It's a horror detective that keeps the suspense until the end and leaves a strong aftertaste. Phasmophobia. Arguably the biggest indie horror phenomenon of recent years. There are no laser guns or hordes of monsters here. Instead, it's about the real feeling of being part of a ghost hunt. Players arm themselves with cameras, recorders, motion sensors, and flashlights to identify the type of entity and try to banish it. The game's greatest weapon is its atmosphere. Dim light, creaking boards, whispers, and random sounds in the silence make every step inside a house painfully tense. And when a door slams shut behind you and your radio starts hissing with static, your heart stops. Phasmophobia shines brightest in co-op. Someone bravely heads down to the basement, someone else hides in a closet, another screams into the radio, calling the ghost by name. That mix of fear and laughter is exactly what makes the game unique. The Coma 2. This is a Korean take on horror, where ordinary school life turns into a nightmare. The main heroine, Mina, stays late after class and finds herself trapped in a twisted reality. The school is covered in roots, bodies hang in the hallways, and terrifying creatures lurk in the shadows. Unlike the first game, the action is no longer limited to a single school. You'll explore a police station, subway, market, and hospital. Every location is full of danger, and the stealth and dodge mechanics are smoother this time. Hiding in lockers, sprinting through corridors, scavenging for items, all of it keeps the tension constant. The second game improves on everything. More characters, more storylines, new enemies, and expanded mechanics. Scorn. This is less of a game and more of an immersion into nightmare art. Its style, inspired by Geiger, feels like wandering through a museum of biomechanical horror. Labyrinths made of bone and flesh, sculptures balancing between beauty and disgust, organic machines you're forced to stick your hands into. Everything here both repulses and fascinates at the same time. The story is told without words. No dialogue, no notes, just a world that speaks through its environment and disturbing cutscenes. Gameplay is slow, with exploration, puzzles, and some combat, but the real anchor is the atmosphere. Each chapter is a standalone piece of dark art. The combat is clunky, enemies are few, and the pacing may feel too slow. But Scorn remains a unique experience, a game you simply can't confuse with anything else. The Medium, a psychological horror where the protagonist has the gift of a medium. She can see both the real and the spirit world at the same time and exist in them simultaneously. This dual-world split-screen mechanic is the game's central hook. In terms of mood, The Medium is more of a thriller with mysticism than a classic horror. Abandoned sanatoriums, gray streets, oppressive music, and tense encounters with a stalking monster set the tone. But truly frightening moments are rare. The game is more about telling a story than making you scream. The plot unfolds gradually, weaving the heroine's personal drama with the mysteries of the past. Signalis, a survival horror where the genre's roots meet retrofuturism. At first glance, it looks like a simple pixel adventure, but soon it pulls you into a nightmare of androids, cosmic disasters, and broken reality. You play as a female replicant searching for fragments of memory, exploring abandoned stations and ships where everything has gone wrong. Limited inventory, scarce ammo, puzzles, and fixed camera angles all echo the old Resident Evil and Silent Hill. But the atmosphere feels closer to Dead Space. The story is delivered in fragments, through notes and environmental details, and the lore is so deep it can be analyzed for hours. It's a tale of memory, identity, and loneliness in the void. DISTRAINT 2. This is a completely different kind of horror, not about monsters, but about inner demons. The protagonist is torn between greed and conscience, between living for himself and guilt toward others. The second game continues his journey. The gameplay is simple: 2D exploration, puzzles, and hiding from dark entities. But the heart of the game is the atmosphere. Unique pixel art, unsettling fog, gloomy corridors, and encounters with personified abstractions. None of it is just scenery, it's part of the hero's inner path. This is a psychological drama about how a person loses hope and finds it again. Homebody, a horror thriller where a simple friends get-together turns into a nightmarish ordeal. You play as a young woman who comes to a countryside house to reunite with her friends, but the house becomes a deadly trap. A relentless killer is on the hunt, and the only way to survive is to hide and solve puzzles. The main twist is the time loop. Every death resets the heroine back to the beginning, but all knowledge, hints, and codes remain with her. Step by step, you uncover the house's mystery and get closer to the truth, while the killer grows faster and more merciless. Inscryption, one of the most original horror games of recent years. On the surface, it's a card game with roguelike elements, You sit in a cabin across from a mysterious creature, battling with decks of beast cards. Each match is a gamble, sacrifices for stronger creatures, random events, and the constant threat of defeat. But Inscryption is far more than just a card battler. At any moment, you can stand up from the table and explore the cabin, packed with eerie puzzles and strange objects. The story gradually shatters your expectations, rewrites the rules, and even breaks the fourth wall. Each act changes genres, making it an experience you simply can't describe without spoilers. Fatal Frame, a classic of Japanese horror that terrifies not just with ghosts, but with the suffocating anticipation of terror itself. The heroine ventures onto a cursed mountain, where vengeful spirits dwell in the mist and shadows. Your only weapon is the camera obscura, which lets you capture ghosts on film to damage them. Every photo shoot is a tense showdown, where timing and proximity are everything. The atmosphere perfectly captures the feel of Japanese horror films like The Ring or The Grudge. Song of Horror, a horror inspired by Lovecraft and classics like the old Resident Evil. The disappearance of a writer sets off a nightmarish investigation through gloomy mansions, monasteries, and other cursed places. The main antagonist is the Presence, an invisible, unpredictable entity. It adapts to your actions. It might suddenly storm into a room, smash down a door, or lure you into a deadly trap. Every time you must react, hold your breath, hide in a closet, or desperately brace a door shut. The game features 13 different characters, each with their own story, but if one dies, they die for good. No revivals. Song of Horror is presented like a series, 5 episodes, each with its own location, puzzles, and horrors. The Inn-Sanity, an indie horror that begins as a simple stop at a motel in the 90s and quickly spirals into a full-blown apocalypse. The protagonist becomes trapped in blood-soaked corridors, with monsters prowling nearby and fellow guests hiding dark secrets. What makes the game stand out is its presentation. Characters have no faces or voices, which emphasizes the alienation and strangeness of it all. It's a short but powerful experience. Tense chases, sudden jump scares, choices with consequences, and multiple endings. A horror that wins you over with atmosphere and story rather than length. Still Wakes the Deep, a horror thriller set on an oil rig in the middle of the sea. When drilling awakens something terrifying, the platform begins to collapse, and it's up to you to save the protagonist. The game thrives on its immersive atmosphere, the storm, failing structures, the deafening roar of metal, and a monster lurking somewhere nearby. The main character has no weapons, only the ability to run, hide, and use the environment. The experience is linear, with parkour elements and quest-like sequences. The game's strongest feature is the feeling of a real-time catastrophe. You're not just running from a monster, you're climbing across a dying platform where every pipe and ladder could give way at any moment. Indie horror is about bold ideas and fresh perspectives on the genre. Some frighten with silence and slow-burning tension, others with claustrophobia, or by bending reality itself. So if tonight you want your hands to shake and chills to run down your spine, turn off the lights, put on your headphones, and dive into any of these stories without hesitation. The Image Game Channel was with you. Have a scary night.